Hi there, welcome to Just Business, the show here on DarkBad TV in which we discuss the state of the video games industry. My name is Indigo and today I have one simple question. When does a phenomena become a genre? Good evening, welcome to the show. My name is Indigo and I usually do quite a bit of thinking in my free time and in my work time for the matter. And one thing I keep thinking about is, when does something qualify of being its own genre? My example in particular is the extremely popular puzzle horror game series for the PC called Five Nights at Freddy's. Yes, you've probably heard of it, or played it yourself, or at least watched a Let's Play of it. For those, if any of you, who've been living under a rock for the last year, Five Nights at Freddy's was a puzzle horror game that was released in the fall of 2014. And this game, and by extension series, is already one of the most popular games out there. Just search Five Nights at Freddy's on YouTube or Steam or whatever and you'll know what it's about. The basics of Five Nights at Freddy's is actually a kind of puzzle tower defense game. Basically, you're sitting on a chair in a room and you gotta prevent all these monsters from reaching you. And if you fail and they manage to get to where you are, you die, resulting in a jump scare. A very simple premise actually, and most people usually shrug it off as just some kind of jump scary game. But truth be told, it's actually a pretty deep puzzle game rather than a horror game. When the first Five Nights at Freddy's game was initially released in the fall of last year, most people looked at it and thought, oh my god, what a new and interesting horror game. But honestly, it's not too different from other tower defense games out there, like Plants vs. Zombies, honestly. The premise is pretty much the same. You're seated over here, the enemies are approaching you, and you gotta fend them off. With the only major difference being that in Five Nights at Freddy's, if you cannot defend your tower, you get jump scared. That's what makes this game so unique. Now that in itself could maybe qualify this as some kind of tower defense game, but the thing is, following the release of the first Five Nights at Freddy's game last year, a bunch of Five Nights at Freddy's clones started popping up. Some of them pretty serious, wanting to cash in on the new type of gameplay that Five Nights at Freddy's was offering, whereas some games were simply parodies with either, you know, something like Disney characters or dank memes or anything, just spoof games essentially. All these games, be it serious or not actually serious, they all got kinda cramped together in a new kinda category called Five Nights at Freddy's clones. And I can see why. They all basically took inspiration and concept stealing, I guess, from Five Nights at Freddy's, which in itself was just another tower defense game with some added jump scares. To the point that actually just yesterday I saw a Let's Play of a new and upcoming game on Steam called Boogeyman, which is basically another Five Nights at Freddy's game in 3D in which you sit in a band and you try to fend off Boogeyman. And you know, nobody would say that's not an attempt at cashing in on Five Nights at Freddy's, but somewhere I'm starting to think, where does the Five Nights at Freddy's clones end and where does the Five Nights at Freddy's genre start? Is Five Nights at Freddy's not as much a game to be cloning these days as much as it's maybe a genre of its own? I can't help but think about the original Super Mario Bros. For the NES. When that game came out, it was unlike pretty much anything the world has ever seen, and obviously the game got huge, mainly because of that. Soon after that, there was another game released for the Commodore 64 computer called The Great Giana Sisters. Now, this game was a very blatant ripoff of Super Mario Bros. And they actually got sued and the game got like pulled back from shelves because it was very obviously like a Super Mario Bros. Clone. And I can imagine the next few kind of 2D platforming games that came out pretty much all got slaughtered and just said, hey, all of you are Super Mario Bros. Ripoffs. But at some point Sonic the Hedgehog came out and all these other new side-scroller 2D platformers came out, and suddenly 2D side-scrolling platforming games was a genre. At some point it stopped being another Super Mario clone and another game in the genre that Super Mario Bros. Established. And with this in mind, maybe it's time to stop talking about these kinda sit in your bed and fend off monsters horror puzzle games as simply Five Nights at Freddy's clones, and maybe start calling them something entirely own, like a new genre. Maybe Five Nights at Freddy's is not its own game for other games to rip off, maybe it was just the first tower defense horror game or something like that out there. Who knows? What do you think? Where do you actually draw the line between calling a game a ripoff of something else and calling it the first in an entirely new genre? Let me know what you think in the comments and I will see you next week. Don't forget to subscribe to DarkBad TV and like this video. Until next time, nothing personal, it's just business. Peace! So many options, what to click next. Alright, to your left you got a Let's Play of Dark Souls 3, one of the very first Let's Plays of the game in the world, and to your right you got the latest DarkBad Time podcast directly from the display booth at Comic-Con Stockholm last weekend. So make your choice now.